Okay, hold on. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 82. Krishna and Balarama meet the inhabitants of Vrindavan, and we'll read two chapters tonight. And I think you're really going to like these chapters. They're very personal and very much heartrending chapters because they're about reunion. And reunion is always the sweetest thing, isn't it? So we're going to be able to read these tonight. We'll start out with our pranams. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devim Gaudavani Pracharane Nirvishesha Srinyavari Pastyat Yari Shatarane Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhunichananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hari Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Jai Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. We've got about four chapters left after this, and we're finished with the 10th canto. So we've been at this now for several years, haven't we? And I don't know how many hundreds of these now we've done. So hopefully someone will avail themselves of this wonderful information in the future. But for now, we've got our assembled Vaishnava devotees, and that's good enough. Haribol. So get ready to read. I'm going to start out. And I'll read about 10 or 15, and then you take 10 or 15, and we'll go from there. Sukadeva Goswami said, once while Balaram and Krishna were living in Dwarka, there occurred a great eclipse of the sun, just as if the end of Lord Brahma's day had come. Knowing of this eclipse in advance, O king, many people went to the holy place known as Samanta Panchaka in order to earn pious credits. After ridding the earth of the kings, Lord Parashurama, the foremost of warriors, created huge lakes from the king's blood at Shamantaka Panchaka. Although he is never tainted by karmic reactions, Lord Parshuram performed sacrifices there to instruct people in general. Thus, he acted like an ordinary person trying to free himself of all sins. From all the parts of Bharat a great number of people now came to that Samanta Panchaka on pilgrimage. O descendant of Bharata, among those arriving at the holy places were many Vrishnis, such as Gada, Pradyumna, and Shamba, hoping to be relieved of their sins. Akrura, Vasudev, Ahuka, and other kings also went there. Aniruddha remained in Dwarka with Suchandra, Sukha, and Sarana to guard the city, together with Kritavarma and the commander of their armed forces. The mighty Yadavas passed with great majesty along the road. They were attended by their soldiers who rode on chariots rivaling the airplanes of heaven, on horses moving with a rhythmic gait, and on bellowing elephants as huge as clouds. Also with them were many infantrymen and as effulgent as celestial vidyadharas. Vidyadharas. That A is long, Vidyadharas. The Yadavas were so divinely dressed, being adorned with gold necklaces and flower garlands, and wearing fine armor, that as they proceeded along the road with their wives, they seemed to be demigods flying through the sky. At Samanta Panchaka, the saintly Yadavas bathed and then observed a fast with careful attention. Afterwards, they presented brahmanas with cows bedecked with garments, flower garlands, and gold necklaces. In accordance with the scriptural injunctions, the descendants of Vrishni then bathed once more in Lord Parshuram's lakes and fed first class brahmanas with sumptuous food. All the while they prayed, may we be granted devotion to Lord Krishna. What a wonderful prayer. That's the one we wanted to learn. May we be granted devotion to Lord Krishna. If you're ever asked for a boon, what would you like? If Krishna ever comes to you, always just say this. May we be granted devotion to Lord Krishna, and you'll be fine. So who wants to pick up text 11?
Bhavananda wants to read.
All right.
Right, anyway. Then with the permission of Lord Krishna, their sole object of worship, the okay.
Vishnus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vishnus ate breakfast and sat down at their leisure beneath trees that gave cooling shade. The Yadavas saw that many of the kings who had arrived were old friends and relatives. The Matsyas, I'm going to have trouble hearing the whole sentence.
Ushanaras.
Vishnaras,
Kusalyas.
Kusaryas,
Vidarbhas.
Kurus,
Shinjayas.
Cambodias.
Not Cambodia. Cambodias.
Cambodia.
Maybe they are from Cambodia.
Okay, well.
Yeah. Kakeyas. Madras. Kuntis.
And the kings of Anarta and Kerala. They also saw many hundreds of other kings, both allies and adversaries. In addition, my dear King Britsik, they saw their dear friends, Nada Maharaj, and the cowherd men and women who had been suffering in anxiety for so long. As the great joy of seeing one another made the lotuses of their hearts and faces bloom with fresh beauty, the men embraced one another enthusiastically, with tears pouring from their eyes, the hair on their bodies standing on end, and their voices choked up. They all felt immense bliss. The women glanced at one another with pure smiles of loving friendship, and then they embraced, their breasts smeared with saffron paste, pressed against one another as their eyes filled with tears of affection. They all offered obeisances to their elders and received respect in turn from their younger relatives. After inquiring from one another about the comfort of their trip and their well-being, they proceeded to talk about Krishna. Queen Kunti met her brothers and sisters and their children, and also with her parents, her brothers, wives, Lord Mukunda. While talking with them, she forgot her sorrow. Queen Kunti said, "My dear respectable brother, I feel that my desires have long been frustrated because although all of you are most saintly, you forgot me during my calamities. Friends and families, even children, brothers and parents, forget a dear one whom Providence no longer favors." Sri Vasudeva said, "My dear sister, please do not be angry with us. We are only ordinary men playthings of fate. Indeed, whether a person acts on his own or is forced by others, he is always under the Supreme Lord's control." Harassed by Kamsa, we all fled in various directions, but by the grace of Providence, we have now finally been able to return to our homes, my dear sister. Sukadeva Goswami said, Vasudev, Ugrasena, and the other Yadas honored the various kings who became supremely blissful and content upon seeing Lord Achyuta.
Okay.
Well, stop here. This next
Yep.
one.
Who wants to take on this next? Maybe Vamsi, you could do this one if you want with these lot of names here. You there, Vamsi?
Yes, Prabhuji.
23.
Which verse? 23?
26.
26. 23 to 26.
Yep.
All the royalty present, including Bhishma, Drona, Dhritarashtra,
Haribol.
oh, Prabhuji, I have to take care of him. I'm sorry.
No,
Can
don't worry
someone?
about it. Don't worry about it. I'll pick up right there and just read this one verse and then somebody else come on. Gandhari and her sons, the Pandavas and the wives, Kunti, Sanjaya, Vidura, Kripacharya, Kunti Bhoja, Virata, Bhishmaka, and the great Nanajit, Purajit, Drupada, Salya, Drishtaketu, Kashiraj, Damagosh, Valakshak, Vishalaksha, not familiar with that one, Mantila, Madra, Kekaya, Yadumanyu, Sursharma, Baalika with his associates and their sons, and the many other kings subservient to Maharaj Yudhisthira, all of them, O best of the kings, were simply amazed to see the transcendental form of Lord Krishna, the abode of all opulence and beauty, standing before them with his consorts. Now, who would like to pick up at 27?
After Lord Balarama and Lord Krishna had liberally honored them with great joy and enthusiasm, the kings began to praise the members of the Vishnu clan, Sir Krishna's personal associates. The king said, O king of the Boyas, you alone among men have achieved a truly exalted birth, for you continually behold Lord Krishna, who is rarely visible even to great yogis. His fame as broadcast by the Vedas, the water that has washed his feet, and the words he speaks in the form of the revealed scriptures, these thoroughly purify this universe. Although the god's good fortune was ravaged by time, the touch of his lotus feet has revitalized her, and thus she is raining down on us the fulfillment of all our desires. The same Lord Vishnu who makes one forget the goals of heaven and liberation has now entered into marital and blood relationships with you, who otherwise travel on the hellish path of family life. Indeed, in these relationships, you see and touch him directly, walk beside him, converse with him, and together with him lie down to rest, sit to ease, and take your meals.
Wow.
Sukadev Goswami said, when Nanda Maharaj learned that the Yadus had arrived, led by Krishna, he immediately went to see them. The cowherds accompanied him, their various possessions loaded on their wagons. Seeing Nanda and Vrishnis were delighted and stood up like dead bodies coming back to life. Having felt much distress at not seeing him for so long, they held him in tight embrace. Vasudev embraced Nanda Maharaj with great joy. Beside himself with ecstatic love, Vasudev remembered the troubles Kamsa had caused him, forcing him to leave his sons and Gokula for their safety. O hero of the Kurus, Krishna and Balaram embraced their foster parents and bowed down to them. But their throats were so choked up with tears of love that the two lords could not say nothing. Raising their two sons onto their laps and holding them in their arms, Nanda and saintly mother Yashoda forgot their sorrows. Then Rohini and Devaki both embraced the queen of Viraj, remembering the faithful friendship she had shown them. Their throats choking with tears, they addressed her as follows. Rohini and Devaki said, what woman could forget the unceasing friendship you and Nanda have shown us, dear queen of Viraj?
Raja.
There's no way to repay you. Raja, okay, thank you.
Yep.
There's no way to repay you in this world, even with the wealth of Indra. Before these two boys had ever seen their real parents, you acted as their parents and gave them all affectionate care, training, nourishment, and protection. They were never afraid, good lady, because you protected them just as eyelids protect your eyes. Indeed, saintly persons like you never discriminate between the outsiders and their own kin. Sukadev Goswami said, while gazing at their beloved Krishna, the young gopis used to condemn the creator of their eyelids, which would momentarily block their vision of him. Now seeing Krishna again as after such a long separation, with their eyes they took him into their hearts, and there they embraced him to their full satisfaction. In this way, they became totally absorbed in ecstatic meditation on him. Although those who constantly practice mystic yoga find such absorption difficult to achieve. The Supreme Lord approached the gopis in a secluded place as they stood in their ecstatic trance. After embracing each of them and inquiring about their well-being, he laughed and spoke as follows. Lord Krishna said, my dear girlfriends, do you still remember me? It was for my relatives' sake that I stayed away so long, intent on destroying my enemies. Do you perhaps think I'm ungrateful and thus hold me in contempt? After all, it is the Supreme Lord who brings living beings together and then separates them. Just as the wind brings together masses of clouds, blades of grass, wisps of cotton, and particles of dust, only to scatter them all again, so the Creator deals with his created beings in the same way. Rendering devotional service to me qualifies any living being for eternal life, but by your good fortune, you have developed a special loving attitude towards me by which you have attained me. Dear ladies, I am the beginning and the end of all created beings and exist both within and without them, just as the elements, ether, water, earth, air, and fire are the beginning and the end of all material objects and exist both within and without them. In this way, all created things reside within the basic elements of creation, while the spirit soul pervades the creation, remaining in their own true identity. You should see both of these, the material creation and the self, as manifest within me, the imperishable supreme truth. Sukadev Goswami said, having thus been instructed by Krishna in spiritual matters, the gopis were freed of all tinges of false ego because of their incessant meditation upon him. And with their deepening absorption in him, they came to understand him fully. The gopis spoke thus, Dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower. Your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into a deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are only ordinary persons engaged in household affairs. Hare Krishna.
All right, Bo. All right, good job, girl. You went for it. I like that. All right, Maria's not shy. All right, guys, I like that. It's perfect. Who wants to grab a piece of the next chapter? This is chapter 83. Draupadi meets the queens of Krishna. This is a really fun chapter, so I hope you enjoy this. Who wants to be next reading? Jack Krishna, you got time?
Sure. It's been a long time.
All right, please let's get you started here.
Okay. Sukadev Goswami said, thus Lord Krishna, the spiritual master of the gopis, in the very purpose of their life, showed them his mercy. He then met with Yudhishthir and all his other relatives, inquired from them about their welfare. Feeling greatly honored, King Yudhishthir and the others freed of all sinful reactions by seeing the feet of the Lord of the universe, gladly answered his inquiries. Lord Krishna's relative said, "O Master, how can misfortune arise from those who have even once freely drunk the nectar from your lotus feet? This intoxicating liquor pours into the drinking cups of their ears, having flowed from their minds of great devotees through their mouths. It destroys the embodied souls, forgetfulness of the Creator of their bodily existence. The radiance of your personal form dispels the threefold effects of material consciousness, and by your grace, we become immersed in total happiness. Your knowledge is indivisible and unrestricted. By your Yogamaya potency, you have assumed the human form for protecting the Vedas, which have been threatened by time. We bow down to you, the final destination of the perfect saints." The great sage Sukadeva Goswami said, "As Yudhisthira and the others were thus praising Lord Krishna, the crest jewel of all subliminally glorified personalities, the women of Anhaka and Kudava clans met with another and began discussing topics about Govinda that are sung throughout the three worlds. Please listen as I relate these to you. Sri Draupadi said, "O Viradarabi, Badra, and Jambavati." Oh, now I got all these names.
You want me to do it real quick for you?
Satyabhama and
Yeah.
Kalindi.
There
O
you go.
Sayada, Rohini, Lakshmana, and other wives of Lord Krishna. Please tell me how the Supreme Lord Achyuta, initiating the ways of the Lord by his mystic powers, came to marry each of you. Sri Rukmini said, "Well, all kings held their bows at the ready to assure that I would be presented to Sishupala. He who puts the dust of his feet on the heads of invincible warriors took me from their midst. As a lion forcibly takes the spray from the midst of goats and sheep, may I always be allowed to worship these feet of Lord Krishna, the abode of goddess Shri." Sri Satyabhamana said, "My father, his lord, tormented by his brother's death, accused Krishna of killing him. To remove the stain of his reputation, the Lord defeated the king of the bears and took back Shamataka jewel, which he then returned to the father. Fearing the consequences for his offense, my father offered me to the Lord, even though it had already been promised to others." I end here. Over to Raghavati.
Yeah, let's have a look. Right, number 10. Sri Jambavati said, unaware that Lord Krishna was none other than his own master and worshipable deity, the husband of goddess Sita, my father, fought with him for 27 days. When my father finally came to his senses and recognized the Lord, he took hold of his feet and presented him with both me and the Shamataka jewel as tokens of his reverence. I am simply the Lord's maidservant. Sri Kalindi said, the Lord knew I was performing severe austerities and penances with the hope of one day touching his lotus feet. So he came to me in the company of his friend and took my hand in marriage. And now I am engaged as a sweeper in his palace. Oh. So she's not a princess, she's the sweeper?
No. She's also a princess, but the thing is, she's happy to sweep his palace. I think that's the meaning.
The humility of that, yeah.
There's one comment I'll give you. In the spiritual sky, although there's practically no dust, it says, it's how it describes it, still all the inhabitants are busy sweeping and cleaning and doing nice things for the walls. Even there's no dust, they just want to do the service for the Lord.
For the Lord. Okay.
And yeah.
Sri Mitravinda said, at my Swayamvara ceremony, he came forward, defeated all the kings present, including my brothers who dared insult him, and took me away just as a lion removes his prey amidst a pack of dogs. Thus Lord Krishna, the shelter of the goddess of fortune, brought me to his capital city. May I be allowed to serve him by washing his feet life after life. Sri Satya said, My father arranged for 7 extremely powerful and vigorous bulls with deadly sharp horns to test the prowess of the kings who desired my hand in marriage. Although these bulls destroyed the false pride of many heroes, Lord Krishna subdued them effortlessly, tying them up in the same way that children playfully tie up a goat's kid. He thus purchased me with his valor. Then he took me away with my maidservants and a full army of 4 divisions, defeating all the kings who opposed him along the road. May I be granted the privilege of serving that Lord. Sri Bhadra said, My dear Draupadi, of his own free will, my father invited his nephew Krishna, to whom I had already dedicated my heart, and offered me to him as his bride. My father presented me to the Lord with an Akshahini military guard and a retinue of my female companions. My ultimate perfection in this, to always be allowed to touch Lord Krishna's lotus feet as I wander from life to life, bound by my karma. Sri Lakshmana said, O Queen, I repeatedly heard Narada Muni glorify the appearance and activities of a tutor, and thus my heart also became attached to that Lord Mukunda. Indeed, even goddess Padmahasta chose him as her husband after carefully consideration, rejecting the great demigods who ruled various planets. My father, Brihadsena, was by nature compassionate to his daughter, and knowing how I felt, O saintly lady, he arranged to fulfill my desire. Just as a fish was used as a target in your Swayamvara ceremony, O Queen, to assure that you would obtain Arjuna as your husband, so a fish was also used in my ceremony. In my case, however, it was concealed on all sides, and its only reflection could be seen in a pot of water below. Hearing of this, thousands of kings, expert in shooting arrows and in wielding other weapons, converged from all directions on my father's city, accompanied by their military teachers. My father properly honored each king according to his strength and seniority. Then those whose minds were fixed on me took up the bow and arrow, and one by one tried to pierce the target in the midst of the assembly. Some of them picked up the bow but could not string it, and so they threw it aside in frustration. Some managed to pull the bowstring towards the tip of the bow, only to have the bow spring back and knock them to the ground. A few heroes, namely Jarasandha, Shishupal, Bhima, Duryodhana, Karna, and king of Ambashta, succeeded in stringing the bow, but none of them could find the target. Then Arjuna, looking at the reflection of the fish in the water, determined its position. When he carefully shot his arrow at it, however, he did not pierce the target, but merely grazed it. He was close, wasn't he? After all the arrogant kings had given up their pride, broken, the Supreme Personality of Godhead picked up the bow, easily strung it, and then fixed his arrow upon it. As the sun stood in the constellation Abhijit, he looked at the fish in the water only once, and then pierced it with the arrow, knocking it to the ground. I think that should be me stopped there.
Well, you want to keep going, I can tell, but somebody might want to grab a piece of that.
Yeah,
Vamsi may be freed up now. I don't know.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, please.
I'm waiting at the pool. My son got into the pool, so I'm free to.
Well, keep watching your son, okay? It's very important. All right. Yeah.
All right. Text 27. Kettle drums resounded in the sky, and on earth people shouted, Jai, Jai. Overjoyed, demigod showered flowers. Just then I walked into the ceremonial ground. the ankle bells on my feet gently tinkling. I was wearing new garments of the finest silk, tied with a belt, and I carried a brilliant necklace fashioned of gold and jewels. There was a shy smile on my face and a wreath of flowers in my hair. I lifted my face, which was encircled by my abundant locks and effulgent from the glow of my earrings reflecting from my cheeks. Smiling coolly, I glanced about. Then, looking around at all the kings, I slowly placed the necklace on the shoulder of Murari, who had captured my heart. Just then, there were loud sounds of conch shells and mridanga, pataha, beri, and anaka drums, as well as other instruments. Men and women began to dance, and singers began to sing. The leading kings there could not tolerate my having chosen the Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Draupadi. Burning with lust, they became quarrelsome. The Lord then placed me on his chariot, drawn by 4 most excellent horses. Donning his armor and reading his bow saranga, readying his bow saranga, he stood on the chariot, and there on the battleground he manifested his 4 arms. Daruka drove the Lord's golden-trimmed chariot as the kings looked on, O Queen, like small animals helplessly watching a lion. The kings pursued the Lord like village dogs chasing a lion. Some kings, raising their bows, stationed themselves on the road to stop him as he passed by. These warriors were deluged by arrows shot from the Lord's bow, saranga. Some of the kings fell on the battlefield with several arms, legs, and necks. The rest gave up the fight and fled. The Lord of the Yadus then entered his capital city, Kusastali, Dwaraka, which is glorified in heaven and on earth. The city was elaborately decorated with flagpoles carrying banners that blocked the sun, and also with splendid archways. As Lord Krishna entered, he appeared like the sun god entering his abode. My father honored his friends, family, and in-laws with priceless clothing and jewelry, and with royal beds, thrones, and other furnishing. With devotion, he presented the perfectly completed Lord with a number of maidservants bedecked with precious ornaments. Accompanying these maidservants were guards walking on foot and others riding elephants, chariots, and horses. He also gave the Lord extremely valuable weapons. Thus, by renouncing all material association and practicing austere penances, we queens have all become personal maidservants of the self-satisfied Supreme Lord. Rohini Devi, speaking for the other queens, said, after killing Bhaumasura and his followers, the Lord found us in the demon's prison and could understand that we were the daughters of the kings whom Bhauma had defeated during his conquest of the earth. The Lord set us free, and because he had been constantly meditating upon his lotus feet, the source of liberation from material entanglements, he agreed to marry us. Thus, his every desire is already fulfilled. O saintly lady, we do not desire dominion over the earth, the sovereignty of the King of Heaven, unlimited facilities for enjoyment, mystic power, the position of Lord Brahma, immortality, or even attainment of the kingdom of God. We simply desire to carry on our heads the glorious dust of Lord Krishna's feet, and enriched by the fragrance of kumkum from his consort's bosom. We desire the same contact with the Supreme Lord's feet that the young women of Vraj, the cowherd boys, and even the aborigine Pulinda women desire. The touch of the dust he leaves on the plants and grass as he tends his cows. Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Hari Bol.
Haribol. That was beautiful. And aren't those wonderful stories about their marriage and how Krishna came and got them? It's incredible. These are incredible stories, you know. So they have achieved pure devotion. They have achieved the order of the Lord found in Bhagavad Gita, which is Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mam Evaishashi Yuktvaivam Atmanam Parayanaha. And you know what that means? Engage your mind always in thinking of me. That's what they're doing. Offer their obeisances and worship me. That's what they're doing. Being completely absorbed in me. That's what they're doing. Surely you will come to me. They're already with the Lord because they've engaged in this process of Bhagavad Dharma. This is the process. They desire the same contact with the Supreme Lord's feet that the young women of Raja, the cowherd boys, and even the Aborigine Pulinda women desire. The touch of the dust of his feet. And they feel it on the plants and the grass as he tends the cows. Even the animals who are in Santaras, you know, in the neutrality, the grass and the trees, as he passes by, they're in a state of ecstasy. You know, there's a lot of people don't believe that. They don't believe that's possible, but these are living entities too. They have the same functions you do, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They're doing the same exact thing we're doing, but they're just stationary. They're stuck in that spot. And they are also doing this. There's one scientific research that was done on plants, and they put a little diode in the soil with a little bell, tinkle bell, and they had a camera in the home. And as the owner of the home was coming home after work, everything was quiet, but they were pulling up towards the driveway. The bell started tinkling, and the plant was getting excited to see the owner of the house come home. Now try to imagine, and the closer the owner got, it came to the door, the thing is tinkling. Finally, the owner comes in, and thing's, you know, ringing off the hook because it wants to be with the owner. We all want to be with the owner. Krishna is the owner. He is our owner, actually. It's not that we belong to ourselves. It's not that we own this universe. It's not that we own the body that we live in. All these things are gifts from the Lord. Who can say they're not? They're all given to you as gifts. So now your goal is to re-engage it in that way, just like the gopis are talking about here, and Rohini and Queen Kunti. All these people are describing exactly what they want. They want the desire to carry on their heads the glorious dust of Lord Krishna's feet, enriched by the fragrance of kumkum from his consort's bosom. Now try to imagine how deep that goes into the heart and soul and how meaningful that is. I mean, those are not just poetic words or flowery words. These are actual feelings and emotions that these people are having. And, you know, we need to try to grab a little bit of that ourselves. And their prayers are wonderful, aren't they? When we look at it, they realize that the Lord is the one who owns all of this stuff. Krishna says, "Aham sarvasya prabhavo, matak sarvam pravartate, iti madva bhajante mam, buddha bhava samanvitaha." In other words, he is the source of all spiritual and all material worlds. Everything is emanating from the Lord. There's nothing that you see that is not emanating from the Lord. And so when we hear the prayers of these self-realized souls, it says the wise people who know this perfectly. Obviously, these people know this perfectly. Why? Because they're engaged in devotional service and they worship the Lord with all their hearts. Our job is to follow in their footsteps. They're setting an example. They are perfected in their devotion. We hear their prayers. We see their actions. We want to follow in their footsteps. We want to learn what they know. We want to feel what they feel. We want these emotions to come into our heart, because Krishna is guaranteeing us that if we do, he says, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Jainamama Payanti Te. He says that those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I will give the understanding of how they can come to me. In the Bible, it says, when you seek me with all your heart and you will find me. So the idea is, are we doing this with all of our hearts? Or are we just hearing these stories and passing them off as regular mundane stories? Or are they having an effect like they're having on the persons who were there? We almost have to be there through the eyes of these great devotees and through the words of these great sages who've written this down for our benefit. That way we can understand exactly our position and the position of the Lord. These are very descriptive chapters, and they portray the grandeur of the environment that the Lord was in. They portray his chivalrous behavior and his activities of coming and stealing these queens away in the Rakshasa style. That's where you just come in and it's illegal. Everybody's there. They're at their ceremony. They're about to get married. Krishna just rides in, grabs her. Everybody's standing there looking like deers in the headlight, going, what? How is this possible that someone would come in the midst? Oh, we're all kings. We all got our weapons. You know, we're wanting to marry this girl, and Krishna just comes and takes it away, takes the girl away like a lion takes away the kill from the hyenas. So Krishna takes her home, installs her as his queen. And yes, she wants to sweep his floor. She wants to wash his walls. She wants to massage his feet. She wants to do anything she can do for the Lord. And everything that she sees is coming from the Lord for her benefit as well. Right? The palace, everything is manifested by Krishna's extraordinary power and ability. So when we look, how do we get there? How do we get there? Right? So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham Ivanu Kampartam Aham Ajat Jam Tama. He says, out of compassion for them, I dwelling in their hearts, I destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness that's born of ignorance. So when we read this Srimad Bhagavatam and we hear these stories, this is the shining lamp of knowledge they're talking about. This is what's destroying the darkness for us, because we get to find out who is Krishna. We get to know who is the Lord through the eyes of his pure devotees. We can see their emotions. We can see how they've learned to love one another. You know, how Vasudeva was talking about how Nanda and Yasoda had taken Krishna and Balarama into their care and raised them up, right? So we want to know, who is this God? Who is this personality that we're talking about? We can hear it not only in their voices, but we can hear it in the voices of all of the great souls, including Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, who says, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam. And that means that Krishna is Purusham, Shashvatam Divyam, Adidevam, Bhajam Vibhum. Adidevam means that he's the first Lord. He's the one without a second. That he is the Param, the supreme Brahman. He's the supreme Dhamma. He's the supreme. He's everything. And so he says, all of these people, all these great saints are declaring it about you, but you yourself are now declaring it to me. Well, he just declared it to these assembled gopis. He just declared it to them as well, didn't he? He sure did. And he said that they should worship him like that, and they're doing very well with it. So he's very pleased with them. Some really great verses in here. Now, are there any questions or comments about the discussion so far that anybody has?
As you said, the queens just wanted to serve Krishna, because here they are. They've been chosen by the supreme personality of Godhead, the king and you know, to be his queen, but they're not puffed up
No,
at all. They just see themselves as very fortunate to be able to serve him in that position as his queen.
yeah,
Not that, oh, I'm queen now of the supreme personality of Godhead, so I'm the most important woman in the universe. They don't think like that. Or I've got these huge palaces with all these servants and all this finery and beautiful dresses, and oh, I'm so wonderful. They don't think about that at all. They're not tainted by any of those trappings of their position.
that's correct. That's correct. As a matter of fact, they're so impressed with Krishna they can't get over it. They cannot get over it. That's the thing. It says when Draupadi inquired from Krishna's wives how the Lord came to marry them, they all had a magnificent story. And they were all very happy to tell that story to one another. And they were very, very excited about describing it. It said in this one verse, it says, Rukmini spoke first. Of course, she spoke first. It says, many kings headed by Jarasandha were intent on giving me in marriage to Shishupal. We know what happened to Shishupal later, don't we? Thus, at my wedding, they all stood with bows in hand, ready to support Shishupal as opponents to Krishna. But Krishna came forcibly, took me away, as a lion takes his prey from amidst goats and sheep. so, so they're so caught up with this chivalry of the Lord, and they're so impressed by the Lord's all of his opulences that they cannot get over it. You just can't get over it. And Krishna's conquered by that. He's conquered by it. You know, he's moved by it. And he tells in the Bhagavad Gita that if you have undivided devotional service, well, you understand me. You can see me standing before you, just as I am. He reveals himself to those persons who have undivided devotional service. But that's the qualification. It's not a jnana. It's not like you got to have unlimited wisdoms. The cowherd girls were not Vedantists, but they had the right mood towards Krishna. So if you want to see God directly standing before him, and you can enter into all the mysteries of the kingdom of God, you have to have bhaktya chwananyaya sakya. You have to have this undivided, pure devotional service. Bhagavatam says it has to be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So without that, there's no way that we're going to be able to attract Krishna. But Krishna was very attracted by them because, well, one Rukmini wrote a nice letter. You might remember that story. And Krishna, I think he wrote her back, right? So these beautiful love letters going back and forth. It was very wonderful. You should read that story again. And let's go back. Any other questions on this chapter? Real quick. We'll go back to the other chapter for a second. Okay. So in the first chapter, we're finding that there was a total eclipse of the sun coming up, right? So the Yadavas and the other kings, they met at Kurukshetra. It was a solar eclipse, and they wanted to go there to do some austerity, do some puja. So the residents in Vrindavan, they all met there. They all came there during this total eclipse of the sun, right? So people from all over the world, all over Bharatvarsha, including the Yadavas, they all converged at Kurukshetra to earn some pious credit. Now we should become meritorious. We should earn some pious credit in the Lord's eyes. And you see wealthy people, beautiful people, famous people, they're burning off their pious credit, okay, if they don't use it for Krishna. So many of them do and many of them don't. I remember seeing a fight with Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. Okay. And this was a world champion boxing match. So in this scene, Mike Tyson bit the ear off of Evander Holyfield, okay, as a dirty fighting trick. trying to beat him, defeat him in the ring because he couldn't. So everybody got to see how this attitude, this bad attitude exists in people when they saw Mike Tyson. At the end of the contest, Evander Holyfield had won. And what did he say? Evander Holyfield says, I give this glory to God, all of it. Whatever this belt, this is God's belt. Because without him, I wouldn't have anything. So to see that compared to somebody who just bit the ear off his opponent in dirty fighting is quite a contrast. And it gives us an understanding of good and evil and how it functions in real life. And so we see like that. And Krishna has done that many times in these varieties of stories that we've been hearing. The demons expose themselves, and then Krishna takes care of it with Sudarshan Chakra or by some other means. But he annihilates the Duskritam from the earth. So, okay. So all these kings were there. Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd community of Braja was there. Everybody was there. They were overjoyed to see all their old friends. They embraced them. They shed tears of happiness together. The wives all embraced one another. Queen Kunti saw her brother Vasudeva and the other members of her family. And they all put aside their sorrow for a moment, okay? Because the reunion is a happy time. Reunion is where it's at. So you've been separated for so long. You've been through so much difficulty. You've heard about the difficulty. Now the beloveds come together and they feel so fortunate. Now, there's one statement that Queen Kunti said, and she actually explained, she said that she was so unfortunate because she said everybody forgot her during her tribulations. And so she makes a quote, alas, even one's relatives forget a person when providence no longer favors. So there's one statement, and that statement is that if Krishna is for you, who can be against you? That's one statement we should always remember. And if Krishna is not for you, who can save you? No one. Now, I want to be clear in the purport of that particular verse that Queen Kunti is saying. She was not blaming her relatives for abandoning her. Because, by the way, they were all driven out by Kamsa and his various armies, and they were persecuted, and they were separated into various lands. Okay, that's described in the text as well. But she realized, she said this was a result of her own karma. She accepted it, not that they were at fault for any reason. So try to keep that in mind. There was a reason for these things. And at the very end, in her prayer, she said, let these maladies befall me again and again if they remind me of the beautiful Lord. So that's the idea. You can use the worst things that ever happened to you to become Krishna conscious. You can use the best things that ever happened to you to become Krishna conscious. You can use anything that happens to you, including breathing air right now, to be Krishna conscious. Krishna says, I am the air. Okay, he's the air. He's the light of the sun and the moon, the taste of water. Krishna is all of these things. He's revealing himself to it. And we need to see Krishna with these divine eyes that Krishna gave Arjuna. He said, you can't see me because you don't have divine eyes. He gave him the divine eyes, showed his universal form. So in the same way, all of these Yadavas had gone and at the different lands, and they were scattered here and there. And finally, they came back together. And there was no way to keep in touch, such great distances at the time. Not like you could pick up the cell phone or whatever, you know. I remember being a kid, and James Bond had this communicational watch on his arm, and he would talk on his phone, and everybody thought, this is so unreal. This will never happen. Now everybody's doing it everywhere you look. So, you know, it's not so extraordinary in the modern age that we have got these technical enhancements, but back then they had to go long distances. Now, all of the kings who were at the event were struck with wonder at the magnificence of Krishna and his wives. They couldn't even believe it. They was like, what? How is it that such opulence and fortune is possible for someone? Well, These are activities of the Lord that no one can equal, nor can they be greater than. They can't match these things. They can't do it. No one else has done these feats. Krishna is the only one who's done these feats. So if you're going to say, I am God, well, let's see you do one of these feats. Just one of them. Any of them. Just pick one and do it. But you can't. So therefore, you're not God. You're a servant of God. So that's the idea. But when they got together, they remembered all these things with great joy. And they remembered how they were tormented by Kamsa and how Krishna and Balarama were taken under the protection of Yasoda and Nanda. And their throats were all choked up with emotion. They were touched. They couldn't say anything to her. They were you felt that way before. It was like, you can't get it out. That's how everyone is affected when they come in contact with pure devotion and with the love for God. And we see that people sometimes during the kirtan, they just flip and the tears start falling. They don't know why. They don't understand why, but they've made a connection. The Lord has woken up in their heart somehow due to that activity. And now they know who they are again. And they begin functioning on the path back home, back to Godhead. Life after life after life after life. There's no loss or diminution. Whatever you've done, that pious credit stays with you. No one can take it away. No one can steal it. No one can do anything with it except you. And you can use it life after life for your own benefit. So they felt like the kindness that was done for Krishna and Balaram, they couldn't repay them, even if they had the wealth of Indra in the heavenly planets. They felt like it was a more service than they could afford to pay for that they had done for the Lord. So then the Lord saw the cowherd girls in a secluded place, and he pointed out he's all pervasive, and that they would never and could never be separated from him. So how is that? What did he tell them to do? Does anybody remember? He said, if you don't want to be separated from me, you simply have to do what? Anybody know? Simply, okay, I'll go ahead and lay it on you. You simply pray to Krishna and he will become manifested in your heart. This is what Krishna told the gopis in a secluded place privately. He said, all you have to do is simply pray to the lotus feet of the Lord and he will manifest in your hearts. So if he's not manifesting in your heart simply by your prayers yet, you should continue with these devotional processes, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smadanam, etc., and so on until Krishna reveals himself in due course of time. Krishna says, Sarvasya Chavai Hriddhi Sanivishto. Does anybody know what that means? It means that I'm seated in everyone's heart. And from me come Smritir, Jnana, Apohanam Cha. What is that? What comes from me is knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And forgetfulness, Krishna says. So you want to remember the Lord's lotus feet. You have to pray that he is manifested within your heart. And that is the instruction of the Krishna to the gopis in that chapter. And that's something we should take away from this. Okay? Is there any other comment or question that anybody has about these two chapters tonight? We've kind of gone through them a little bit quickly, but great stories. Everybody did a great job of reading. Really appreciate it. Any other thing? Vamsi, you got anything? How's your
Hare
buddy?
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. One of the stories of why we celebrate the Ratha Yatra is from this episode where the Lord arrived in his chariot and the gopis pulled the chariot with their bare hands to take him to Vrindavan. instead of them going back to Dwaraka. So that is symbolized in the Ratha Yatra when we pull the Lord into our heart.
That's very, very good. Yeah, and the Lord is coming back from his little vacation, right?
Yeah.
All right, coming back to the
Yes.
temple there. So that's
Yeah.
a very beautiful,
Mhm.
story there, an analogy there too. So, yeah, if you want Krishna to come, you have to ask him, you have to petition him, you have to be sincere. You can't be mindlessly, blah, 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 Krishna, not like
Mhm.
that, because Krishna is not listening. If you're not listening, why would he listen? Really?
Mhm.
I mean, he is listening actually, but it's offensive to him. So,
Mhm.
best we don't offend the Lord, but we try to follow the regulative principles for chanting. There are 10 offenses to the Lord. You can read those, and you can find out how you can purify your chanting. Because if you simply pray with all your heart to the Lord to come to you, He will. But if you're halfway doing, uh, not worth the time. You got to really get the Lord's attention. You got to go for it. And the way to do it is sincerity. That's the real key to the whole thing. Purity of heart and sincerity. So that's a good, Vamsi, appreciate that very much. Anything else? Anybody else got?
Yes, Prabhuji, and also this Mataji, the eight principal queen, the Lakshmana, is explaining how the Lord is more skillful than Arjuna, because everybody thinks Arjuna is the most skillful archer, and he won the hand of Draupadi through by showing his skill. But in this chapter, his principal wife Lakshmana is revealing how the Lord even did something that Arjuna couldn't. So, and we know that the Lord is so merciful that in the whole of Mahabharata, Arjun is considered to be the hero. Even though the Lord is the hero, he makes his devotee the hero.
That's perfect. Thanks for bringing that up. Because Arjuna just grazed the fish. Krishna got the fish. With one, he just said he looked quickly and then did it. He
Yeah.
didn't hardly bother with it. So that's true. But Krishna, they knew that though, Vamsi, before the fight, because Krishna said, as God, I shall not enter the fight. Because if God's in the fight, nobody can, I mean, who can win? There's no way. Everybody knew that. So he said, you can have my army or you can have me. And of course, the evil sons of Dhritarashtra snatched
Duryodhan,
Krishna's
yeah,
army. That's the way it says. They
yeah.
snatched at his army immediately. Whereas Arjuna was happy to have him as a chariot driver and his promise not to enter the battle. However, he did break his promise, didn't he?
Yeah, with Bhishma.
He of one individual, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very good stories. So, guys, these are great stories. Everyone in the world, this is your history. This is not some Hindu history. There was no word to call Hindu. We didn't even know what Hindu means. This is a Vedic society. This is the culture of Sanatan Dharma. This is our rightful heritage. Those who are born in Bharat Varsa, they have a special obligation to share this information all over the world. So Prabhupada came here. Look what he did to guys like me. I mean, how would I have ever been redeemed? I was going, with all the rest of my friends, all going down a spiral, right? Probably to animal life. That's what it felt like. So, born in the darkness of ignorance, but the spiritual master is bringing that torchlight of knowledge. Now, once you hear it, you're changed. We see people all over the place starting to surrender to the Lord. So, more and more as the Chaitanya era develops, you'll see that this preaching has really, really affected the world. There were 100 temples. Now there's 800 temples. There'll be 8,000 soon. There was a few thousand devotees. Now there's millions, hundreds of millions. So expect this to continue in the Chaitanya era, even if there's some delay caused by men and their nonsense. It'll all be done by the Lord's will and by His mercy. Everything will be accomplished in due course of time. So, guys, thank you so much Appreciate you being with us. I'm going to say Hare Krishna. You repeat Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna.
Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare
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 Hare.
Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare
Hare
Rama.
Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare
Hare
Rama.
Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama
Rama
Rama.
Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Thank you so much for your wonderful association. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. We're about to finish the 10th canto. Be here for the last riveting chapters, and we will share again next week, same time, same station. Hari Hari Bo.
All glories to Gayatri Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Hare Bol. Jai Shri
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Hare Bol.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.